DVD number 5 was going to be the end-all to the lies we teach our children in the textbooks. And DVD number 5 is why they really needed to get rid of Dr. Kent Hovind. Enter Exhibit A, DVD number 5. DVD number 5 is what cost Kent Hovind 10 years of his life. The United States government would frame it as structuring. An individual taking amounts under the $10,000 threshold, which would then populate the required forms being filed for the IRS to follow along with those large transactions. It's a law that was created to try to detour drug dealers from being able to easily do business. It was made for criminals, but it was somehow used against a pastor running a small theme park in Pensacola, Florida, to lock him up for 10 years off floppy evidence at that. This is what happened. Buckle up. You have got to see this ride. It's going to be fun. This is an article from NCSE, National Center for Science Education, July 14th, 2006. Kent Hovind arrested on federal charges. Kent Hovind, the evangelist who styles himself Dr. Dino and runs the Creation Science Evangelism Ministry as well as Dinosaur Adventureland, a small creationist theme park in Pensacola, Florida, was arrested on July 13th, 2006 on 58 federal charges. The Pensacola News-Journal, July 14, 2006, reports that in court, Hovind professed not to understand the basis for the indictment. "I still don't understand what I'm being charged for and who is charging me," he said. The News-Journal adds that Hovind has been sparring with the IRS for at least 17 years on his claims that he is employed by God, receives no income, has no expenses, and owns no property. This was the cover charge that they would blanket over Kent Hovind in order to help make him go away. The reason they wanted to make Kent Hovind go away was because of DVD number 5. And as we go along in this episode further, we will show how DVD number 5 is referenced by SWAT teams that are searching Kent Hovind's residence when they arrest him and Mrs. Hovind and even refuse her the right to get dressed before being dragged down for interrogation, something that's usually reserved for hardened drug dealers. How did Kent Hovind get on the radar? Well, there's multiple stories about how this could have happened, but the two most likely stories is that the IRS noticed Kent Hovind on a television station, Kent Hovind bragging about the way he structures his taxes, and the IRS happened to catch an episode of it, and they went to figure it out. Pastor Hovind and his wife were arrested at gunpoint and refused the right to get dressed. This is an abuse and a travesty against a pastor in the United States of America. This was one of the first falls of the United States Constitution concerning how religious leaders are treated in the United States. Pastor Hovind's wife served jail time too, a much lesser sentence, however, than Kent, as a warning to submit and take what was coming his way. What a terrible feeling of destitute, to know that you're being ramrodded by the United States government, and to also know that you have to sit there and take it. You have to sit there and watch your rights be violently stolen from you, or else, if you speak out against it, your wife could lose her freedom. Next up, U.S. Attorney Michelle M. Heldmeyer and Assistant U.S. Attorney John David Roy Atcheson. This is some of the most interesting facts pertaining to the entire case, things that are always looked over. And by the time we get done painting this entire picture for you, you'll understand exactly why a small town pastor from Pensacola, Florida, spent 8 years in federal prison over taxes. In 1993, an assistant U.S. Attorney, John David Roy Atcheson, committed suicide after being caught trying to sexually exploit and rape a child that was only 5 years old, only days after prosecuting Kent Hovind.
New at 5, a disturbing case of perverted justice. He's sworn to uphold the law, to prosecute those who commit crimes. But tonight, this man, a Justice Department officer, is charged after being caught in an internet sexting involving children.
Judge Margaret Casey Rogers makes a chilling statement that Kent Hovind's tax charges were worse than rape. Later, that was erased from the court transcript, which is funny considering how we mentioned before that both the prosecutors were related to, let's just say, child rape and pornography. Now, Dr. Gray Dixon, along with 7 other witnesses of the trial, heard Judge Casey Rogers make the statement that Kent Hovind's charge was worse than rape. What crime was worse than rape? Structuring.
And I'm speaking to you about structuring deposits to evade reporting requirements, commonly referred to as structuring. The Bank Secrecy Act requires that any cash transaction over $10,000 has a currency transaction reporting, and it has to be filed.
Kent Hovind spent 8 years locked up for withdrawing his own money in amounts of under $10,000 so that it wouldn't need to be reported by the IRS, something literally almost everyone in the United States has done at some point or another. Now, here's another interesting way they ramrodded Kent Hovind. To request an appeal, you have to have the court transcript. Kent Hovind had the official transcript withheld from him until the appeal was 4 months after the deadline. This is a national injustice. Kent Hovind was manipulated, he was shamed, he had all his rights as an American taken away from him, and Judge Casey Rogers still walks the streets as a free woman after violating an American citizen's constitutional rights. This is one of the biggest travesties in American history. Did we mention how Judge Casey Rogers hates Christians? Well, interesting fact. Judge Casey Rogers has a harsh record towards believers. She issued a contempt order against 2 school teachers for praying before eating. She wanted to have them arrested. The source is Washington Times, September 17th, 2009. The article was called "Lawmakers Back Officials Facing Jail for Praying."
All right, we have Kent Hovind on the line. He's talking to Nico right now. We're going to put him on the board and go to him as soon as they're ready. He is a political prisoner, and he'll only have 15 minutes on the line with us. We're going to go to Kent Hovind right now. Political prisoner, more than a decade in prison, indicted under structuring that the New York Times will put on screen. Last year admitted is a total criminal fraud. Hearings last month in Congress admitting it's incredible. You simply take money out of your own bank account as cash, and they claim that you're trying to steal money and launder it. And then they put a preacher who reached over 1 billion people in 30 plus languages, exposing the myth of modern Darwinism as a socialist religion.